I welcome you in this lecture, and in this lecture, we're going to look at principling in education institutions. However, it also works in management of any other institution other than education. So, the examples we shall be using here are mostly education, but you can also use the lessons from this course unit as a replica for other institutions which may not be education institutions. So when we say principling in education institutions, we are actually meaning managing an education institution as a head, of that education institution. So in the US and other parts of the world, they don't use the word head teacher, they use the word principal. And some countries adopt the word head teacher. Then another one, deputy head teacher. In some other countries, they use the word superintendent, the superintendent. Ssebuyungo, Wilber, Kivekayunga. We have earlier on looked at the superintendent. Yes. We call him the superintendent. So we earlier on looked at the decision-making systems in education, and we saw rational decision-making, which was following processes and procedures, and then we also looked at discretionary decisions, which a person making discretionary decisions actually bases on reasoning situations other than the predetermined criteria. Also saw participatory decisions where the decision maker actually brings together all the stakeholders. So that is called the participatory mode. We also looked at the intuitive mode, decision making, where decisions are made based on feelings and unconscious dimensions other than reasoning. So in this lecture, we are specifically focusing on the principal's roles and their various classifications. This is a continuation from the previous lecture where we looked at the four roles of the four strategic roles of a principal, which included the principal as an instructional leader, the principal as a decision maker, the principal as a site manager, and the principal as a creator of the learning environment. Those are some of the roles, but also to add, there is also a role that the principal acting as a transmission box. A transmission box. Yes. Here in Uganda, the transmission box is called the what? Conduit. That box where you put, what do you use the box for? Transmit what? So if information, where they drop information and then, yes, the information can be picked. In some countries, everyone at home can have a drop box, a mailbox, yes, where when you in your absence, someone can drop a book, a paper, and a check, so you can pick it. So a principal acting as a transmission box means that the principal transmits information from higher echelons, those higher levels, from the top of the hierarchy. So what is happening with this, with the directors? What is happening with the with the board? So the principal transmits all uh, um, that has been resolved by the board to the lower authorities. Those are the middle, and then ensures that the information flows up to the lower authorities. We shall see the principal also getting involved in management of information. And for example, a principal managing information regarding to the institution that could be circulating in the communities. And the community could have perceived, or if this information could be even emerging from a competitor, which might be mal information or a misinformation about the institution in the community. So the principal has got to set processes to counter malinformation circulating into the community. Either you write a notice to disclaim such information, or you circulate a video of what proving that such information is not true about the institution, or you set within the organization hierarchy um, uh, an office in charge of managing information or public relations, so that information about the school or even the image of the school is protected in the community, including the stakeholders. It could be the image about students, that the students of the school are practicing a certain malpractice or a an antisocial behavior, misbehavior, and the community is starting to perceive that that school, if you want your student, your learner to be to be spoiled, take the learner there. That is what is in the community. So how do you, what structures do you put in place as a manager of this institution to make sure that the image of the institution remains outstanding in the community? That's the brand equity, the brand of the school, and the perspective the community has about about this school. So this views the principal as an information manager as well. So if the principal has not set systems of managing information within the, the education institution and also outside the education institution, then the institution is not in charge of its image, of, of, of its image. I don't know how that school where there was a video that circulated which showed that students were in a bus and they were dancing nude. I don't know how they handled that. It was what? A borrowed bus. Mm. Mm.
It was higher. But you finally the students who are involved were expelled and the teachers also was but the teacher, the teacher of the school really had remained there, but they had to go along with the teachers wear. That's why you see the blacks in America and also the islands where you go also wear.
Okay. So.
And also there was this video of a school in Usoga where they say that there was a lady promoting homosexuality. That was also very common.
Okay.
Like a woman promoting.
Okay. So all the institution, the management, which we are saying that is the principal's role or the head teacher's role to ensure that there is management of affairs related to communication. Even those platforms where information is going to go, if it is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the information that goes there, you must be aware and you must have designated those channels as a manager. They should be known, and also their management is also defined. Who posts information there? What if it is hacked and someone starts posting information within the what? Within the very account. What actions do we actually take? So all that those systems are actually established. There is an institution where I was and we were using online teaching, and someone hacked into the what? Into the account where we were presenting, and removed our screen and replaced it with a screen showing pornography. Yes. Now, so the community is out there to attack systems of communication. So how do we prepare ourselves to make sure that the image of the institution remains outstanding amidst the digital era of information dissemination? Now we are looking at the principal's roles, which are classified under, we are going to classify this under the acronym PESTELERA. That's acronym. PESTELERA. Yes, that acronym is PESTELERA. Sorry? No, that's it, an acronym. Even you can come up with your own acronym. So I came up with this acronym in addition to an existing acronym by other scholars called PESTEL. So if you get PESTEL analysis, we have modified it for this lesson to capture more of the principal's roles. That's how we have ended up with PESTELERA for this. So the P stands for political, which translates to the political role of the principal, the principal's political role. Then the principal's economic role, that is the E, it is economical. Then S is social role, the T is technical role, and then the E is environmental role. Then L is the legal role. The other E is ethical role, and R religious role. We are also adding culture, religious, and culture. And A is the adaptive role of the principal. So We are starting with the principal's political role as the first classification. So here the principal or the head teacher is viewed to act like a politician. We have, what do the politicians do? They get many people around themselves. They interact with several people. That's why here we are saying establishes contact with the community. So you have to establish contact with the community and know some of the members or most of the members in the community which the school serves. These members in the community may be parents, community leaders, religious leaders, could be civil servants, and business people.
Churches.
Yes, the religious leaders, those the churches or any leadership that the religious inclinations within the community. So when these are established, the political role of the principal is like you establish them, the contact with these communities, and create a relationship with them. Then protect the school's autonomy, as many people are attracted to the school because of the political role of the principal. The institution is needs to maintain its autonomous direction. The word autonomy is used to mean independence, but with interdependence. You operate independent as an independent body within this community, but interdepending with others. Yes. So if the school's autonomy is not protected, then the community is likely to influence the decision making and all the implementation processes of the school. That's why we said that if the school is to operate, then its walls should be perforated and not blocked, but also regulated. Yes. So protect the school from parents' pressure by setting rules and policies. Protecting the school does not mean blocking the school from parents' pressure. But let us regulate the pressure from parents. You remember the community has its demands and needs it imposes onto the school. The school also has its technical wing, which has its demands and needs. The two must do what? Must mutually exist, but not one overriding the other. The school has its core functions, which are in the technical wing. The school is technical. For example, a parent may want the learner to be in primary 1 without being in kindergarten, proving that the learner can actually progress in primary 1, which the school feels like the learner should first go through the kindergarten, at least a year or the 3 years phase. And now, maybe you have 5 parents who are demanding for that. There can be a temptation to have the primary 1, having these learners start in primary 1 without the kindergarten. But in primary one, they are reading sentences, they are adding, subtracting, and multiplying. The learner is now seated in that class. Because of political pressure from the parent, you have taken learners to primary one. But the technical structure of the school will not support that child in that class. The child will not be served sufficiently unless you have set up a system which will have to, where these learners are going to be accommodated, served, and taught in a unique way, and then after integrated with colleagues. But if you take those decisions simply because there is parental pressure or community pressure, then the school is likely to struggle. So the principle is in a political situation where there is external pressure balanced with internal pressure, and is in one side has external pressure, the other one has internal pressure, and the middle axis is now the point of decision making. What should we go? Given that he's a politician in this environment, does not want to spoil the contact with the community. Yet at the same time, does not want to spoil the image of the school by misservice or a disservice. So what he does is to make sure that uh, there is a point of agreement, which comes out of not imposing rules of the school to the parent, but you create you use, what do you use? You engage the parent and reach to a win-win situation, consensus. Then collaborates with parents to obtain extra resources or favor from the community. Yes, collaborates with parents to obtain extra resources or favor. Yes, extra resources or favor. I happen to be with a head teacher who exercised a political role to the extent that he was in a public school, but wanted to initiate a primary a private school which was nursery and primary, but did not have money. So he was to sign out and told some of the parents that I'm going out, but for me, I'm going to start a school. What I don't have is the money, but I've always had the vision of having the school. Some of the parents who had children in other primary schools, other schools, withdrew them and said, you're going to start with mine. And you need the money, and school fees is there for the year. He built there. He established a building, and unfortunately, the guy passed on. But the school was with about 300 learners. Mm. So that when there is community, the political role of the head teacher is so maintained. You saw some point where the parents, the head teacher was being withdrawn from a school, and the parents had come to cry over them. They gathered and they were all
parents, not teachers.
and the community. So and then he also reduces conflicts, or where possibly eliminates the conflicts that exist between stakeholders. That could be conflicts arising from groups such as parent, teacher, teacher conflicts, teacher to teacher conflicts, student to student conflicts.
Teacher, student.
Yes. It could be even student administration conflicts and the teacher administration conflicts and even school to school conflicts and school neighbor. So school to neighbor, that is communities, yeah? School community to community. So those conflicts, the principal or this head teacher is aware and is already finding remedies. So also deals with regulations pertaining to to his or her political role within the institution. Also deals with the regulations pertaining to his or her political role within the institution. So in the political role of the head teacher, we see the head teacher generating contact or establishing contacts with the community, protecting the school's autonomy, and also protecting the school from parental pressure, and is collaborating with the parents to obtain extra resources, eliminating conflicts, and also deals with issues pertaining to his or her regulations or regulations pertaining to the position of being a principal or head teacher. So there are regulations there. So for the part of regulations, we shall cover that under the legal role, the principal's legal role. Then we also have the principal's economic role. We are going to economic role. Now, economics is about incomes and expenditures. How and what activities do we do to generate those incomes, and then how do we use the resources that we have generated. So for that case, the principal or this head teacher is looking at anticipating changes, for example, changes in prices. The principal anticipates changes in prices, can also focus on changes in costs of items or services, and changes in seasons. Then after advises the stakeholders. This means that the principal's mind shifts from the internal environment to looking at what is happening in the entire country, the economy of the country. Can even look at the regional economics. So there is then an eye which we call the eye of a chameleon, which is the word a roving eye. Roving with R is okay. That roving eye, the chameleon has the potential to look forward and backwards at the same time. One eye is facing forward, the other is facing backward. That point of judgment is very possible. One is facing sideways, the other one forward. The roving eye. the roving eye. So the principal has to keep a roving eye on cash flows. When we talk about cash flow, we have two kinds, cash in and cash out. Cash in, those are avenues that bring revenue or money in. And then cash out, those are avenues where cash goes out of the drawers, either the bank or the cash that you had at hand. And the cash that you had is no longer with you. It has either gone by expenditure, you have donated it, or made purchases. You see the focus on cash movement. Cash is coming in and cash is going out. That's what we are calling cash flow. When cash comes in, that is cash inflow, and then when cash is going out, that is cash outflow. So cash comes in by either sales of products, if you have some products to sell, or sale of assets. We saw that how it implies selling an asset of a government set in a government setting. You need to go through the PPDA. But if there is a sale of that's cash coming in from sales.
The first cash in, I think, is school fees.
Then there is also fees as a source of cash in, and it is core in schools. It will be either fees or grant for government schools. Others you can call them charges. Then there is also donation and loans, if in case they are loans. You can see other sources which you can discover, which you can use to generate revenue. So the principal is also looking at those cash inflow. All things are taking place, but is cash coming in? Is also devising ways of where to get the money to run all operations. Then cash out. Where is our cash going? It can go to expenditure lines, expenses. It can go to purchase of assets. It can go to donation. It can also go to lending. Yes, you can lend. That's cash kept with other people. So all that, the
Yes. These teachers, some schools let teachers. They deduct, and they keep deducting.
So the job of the principal is to ensure that the cash flows keep flowing and there shouldn't be financial scarcity within the institution. So is making sure that there is more cash inflow and regulated cash outflow. That's why there is budgeting. That's why there is what? There is financial planning within the institution, and also audits of how cash is moving. So it looks at in the private setting, that are also profit making institutions of schools. They look at the income statement as well, which tells us how much revenue is coming from the services we render other than loans, and so you look at other than loans and the and the donation fees and any sale of either uniform or other, they make what we call revenue in. That's revenue versus costs. Then you take away all the costs and come to gross profit. Then expenditure, you take away also expenditure to come to net profit. The principal has to be aware of those critical things. Then also focuses on the asset position of the institution. For example, what is happening with our balance sheet? How many assets do we have on the asset position of the institution? That is now like looking at the balance sheet. Balance sheet, you look at one part is called the assets versus liabilities. How many assets do we have? Those are the fixed assets and the current assets. Take away all the liabilities which the institution has. So what remains is the net asset position. If you have little, the assets are lower than what the liabilities are, you have a negative asset position. So it means that your institution does not have assets. Everything you have there belongs to the creditors. The best position is when the asset position is positive and maybe larger, meaning you have more assets than liabilities. When the assets are less than the liabilities, that negative is what we call bankruptcy or insolvency. So in most cases, those institutions become a burden to the principal. So the principal, to prove that it is very effective, has got to make sure that the assets that he found are increasing and the liabilities that he found are reducing. If that does not happen, then the principal is drawing the institution into being more indebted, having more debts. Being indebted is also what we say in having more debts. Yes.
I need some clarification here. You say the assets minus liabilities, you get the net position.
The net assets.
The net assets.
Mm. Mm. If this principle knew, well, in other word, that net position, what actually are we remaining with if we paid off all our liabilities using the assets we have? So what remains is the net asset position, which other institutions in accounting, they also call it equity. But this principle is not developing that language. So is concerned, the other is the principle is concerned with marketing of the institution. So the marketing wing of the institution is what actually helps to bring. So because the work of marketing is you create awareness of the brand and the services, or those products that you have. Make sure the community knows that they are good and they are found only there in that institution. That's marketing. So what marketing will do will attract, yes, your name is there in the community, okay, and the perspective the community has about your name is good. That's what we call awareness of the what? Of the brand. Then you will need to set strategies of attracting learners. Government institutions tend to 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 be reluctant with attraction. Yes, that is under marketing. So under marketing we attract, yes, learners. Or those are the customers. Then we also set strategies of retaining them throughout their what? Their study period. So you attract, retain, and grow the number. That's in marketing. So the more you market and attract, the more the enrollment grows, increases. And the more the enrollment, the more the what? The sales. That's the revenue, which we call fees and charges. And the more the fees and charges, the more the development. So that is concerned with marketing, sales, and development. That's the summary. Then is also concerned with overseeing risks and uncertainties that may bring losses to the institution. Oversees all the risks and uncertainties that may bring losses to the institution. Then afterwards sets remedies to actually overcome those risks and uncertainties. It is also very important to note that the economic rollover principle spreads into analyzing competition. I heard that proms have been where we are banned from schools. Proms. We heard of a student who went with a plane on the prom, so that there is nothing wrong with it. But I hear there is a school where if you have a learner there and you don't have a car, you must hire one. Those learners, most of the parents, over 90% have cars. So the 10% learners feel like when we are leaving, for us, we are not like others. So to bring uniformity, other than the uniform of putting on the school dress, that even cars can be uniform. That everyone comes with a car to pick a child. Other than some children feeling like for us now, drive them up to somewhere and then board a taxi up to your home. That's what the school is. So anyway, this is where we are looking at competition.
That is exaggeration by the family. Unless it is an international school, but there's no school which can say that. Sometimes there's a student who put pressure on their parents. How do you manage this? The what? Prom. How do you manage your prom? Hours. Hours. The other audience teacher. For us, we were both kids, and for him, he wanted it. And he's taking in with the children. That this year, he The school costed everything for the students. They brought limousine, they brought the cars lined up. Heavy boy, uh, President Students Council with girls of Nagasusa. They held hands and entered the limousines and what? But the whole staff, we rejected the pro. The teacher remained in it with the students. They were taken out. Musmania the Catholic continued. So the girls, they also do their affairs on the way. From where? From the hotel. Cinema streets. Yeah. So the school in Kati, is it how many millions of the boys? Then the girls 38 million. The school only, you just look for the dress or the suit, but everything is paid by the school.
Okay, so there is that element of uniformity that is coming up
But
in
now I'm
schools.
very sure with the new head teacher because we are already rejected, it's not coming back.
Okay.
So did he do it for all the ones and now it's going to die?
No, it has been for like some years. But in the staff meeting we rejected, and the staff meeting we rejected. But for him, he said, where my children going in good door, where those problems are there. So let the children be. After the students are all going to tell us, teacher, on Friday, we don't have a lesson, senior 6 years. Because our party, even us, we never even have to know that the students are there helping to
Okay. So,
rejected because we didn't work.
so now when it comes to competition, you've got to see what other people are doing, not maybe to do like them, but to learn from them, not to be blind of competition. One should know.
That thing was hired by the director of the school. Even if they put a sticker of the school, just to like indirectly advertising.
So
They put the sticker of the school.
to ensure that there is competition analysis, the principal has got to conduct what we call a SWOT. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? The opportunities we have, and the what? And the T, the threats. Yes. So that you capitalize on your strength and then strengthen your weaknesses, and you take on some opportunities that you're seeing coming up in the market. And we've captured what we call taxes, those economic demands to the school's operations under the legal, the statutory demands, the statutory deductions under legal, but they are also affecting the economy of the school as well. So we have now the principal's social roles. Yes.
About the economic.
Mm.
The principal being the accounting officer. Is it independent or is it general?
The principal is an accounting officer.
Those are the general things we are mentioning.
As well, yes.
Is it independent or
it's an economic role.
Independent.
But remember, for it to be economic, it is accounting for finances. But also, the accounting is not only for finances. You account for staff. How many are there? Who left?
The principal is the accounting office of the school.
A finance, for if it is an economic accounting, your accounting is a finance accounting officer. If it is economic.
And then the other thing under political, where we place this issue, where the school has been dragged to court for something.
We are capturing that under legal.
Under legal?
Yes. Okay. Though it will affect economy, the economic status of the school by paying those penalties and
also
the costs.
the way the people perceive the school.
Yes, we've seen that. So in the in the social roles, we are focusing on the principal's social role. There should be in the social role of the principal three major aspects there. One is interaction with the stakeholders. Interact with them. The social role of a principal is to interact with the stakeholders. The principal gets out of his desk, out of that room, moves to the stakeholders to interact with them. So the principal is not stapled on the what? On the chair. Then the other one is communication. The principal communicates with stakeholders. That means there must be exchange of information from the principal to the stakeholders. Those at the top of the principal and those at the bottom or middle of the principal. To respect the hierarchy still through the what? The hierarchy. But you remember the stakeholders are both internal and external stakeholders. The external stakeholders include the suppliers, the parents, the sponsors, the partners, and the government, local government.
Teachers.
I'm having a lecture. In a lecture, that's what we do. The person picks the concept and can even do further research. But external stakeholders are suppliers, we have the parents, the sponsors, the partners, we have the local government, and we also have the well-wishers. They may not be necessarily that they are sponsoring or they are parents or they are partners in any way, but they are community well-wishers. Of course, you cannot tell the well-wishers, the bad wishers. So all of those have got to get information about the school. There could be information that the school closed, is no longer existing. I heard of a school that had such information going into the stakeholders that the school closed. So they had to go and advertise, please members, we are still existing. And
So the internal stakeholders include teachers,
yes,
students, group employees.
Yes.
Non-teaching.
We use the word staff. You know, many times administrators have the word teachers more than staff. So other people who don't teach start seeing themselves out of the picture of the principal.
Now where we place the members of board of governance and PTA members.
Those are internal. Yes, the board members.
And
PTA
board
members.
they also paid for the staff, but they can't patronize. They are in that.
So for that case, though they are in a middle position, they are still on the organization structure of the school, which is for internal stakeholders. So then it means that for in this social role, the principal will look at the complaints that are arising within the institution and find remedies for them. So there we have looked at interactive role, communicative role. We have seen the principal interacting, the principal communicating. We have to see the principal supporting. Yes. The third one is supporting.
The principal supports.
Yes. That is as a social role, the principal is going to interact, to communicate, and support. Support stakeholders to attain their what? The objectives and their targets. So in supporting role, the principal, to support, the principal gets involved. But careful involvement. Yes? Yes, that is getting to participate in the event. Hmm? You work with them. Yes, because when you're supporting people, it can be like in supporting you get involved in some of the activities, directly involved, to be as though you are also working with them, but not to overdo it to the extent that you get lost in the activity and leave the office of the principal. You're supporting because there was a gap, which either you didn't have someone to delegate to give the support on your behalf, that you're doing it, but it should be a temporary action. Then we have facilitating. So in supporting, there is facilitate. Give the tools and equipment required, even if it is financial facilitation. Yes, you facilitate.
Isn't that economic?
When you are in a social role, that's why when the president of the country is going to the community for as a social uh, uh, a social gesture, there is also money in the state house, which they call what? The give away cash, give to the community. If you find people are struggling, they are hungry, but you're going to see whether they are hungry, and you find that they are hungry, you don't just drive back.
Activities in the community.
See?
Yes. Okay.
This is in the school and the community. The social role is not only internal, it is also external. So you will see that the principal is getting involved in parties of the community and celebrations and even funerals and various events as a social gesture. But will he will interact, he will communicate, will also give support. Will also give support. Interacting,
Yes.
the principal goes. Communicating, the principal gets a space to speak to them. Supporting, the principal goes with an envelope, either I've given you a goat. Here is 200,000 shillings.
Mr. Ssebuyungo, in my school, um, reason as to why per weddings at a high rate, there is the contribution which is by the school.
Mm.
Introduction, wedding studies was revised. Introduction 500, wedding 1 million.
Mm.
So if you are introducing, the school gives you that
Mm.
minus the staff contribution. This one is from the school.
Mm.
They sign it for you. Wedding 1 million.
Yes.
That one is also part of this.
Yes, that is supporting now.
Then
They
the
are
other,
supporting financially.
then the other issue, attending these functions,
That is interaction.
interaction,
Mm.
interaction.
So we've seen that it supports, by supporting, they facilitate and also motivate. Okay. Motivate. And maybe to add on with interaction, there should be engagement with the parents. We've seen all that, but there is something very important which we call molding expectations of the parents. Molding parental expectations. This time round, some of the learners have not done well, or certain things have not gone well. The principal starts seize it and cultivates the hope in these stakeholders before they even demand for expectations. You set the expectations. This time around, we are going to do this, the other, and that. So the parent goes back knowing that those are the things my school is going to do, other than surprises. That is molding expectations. Then we also have what we call the principal's technical role. In this session, that will be the last one, the principal's technical role. That is technological role. The principal's technological role. So that means that the principal here in this role, the principal is going to embrace technological advancements within the school. Technological advancements within the school. So in enhancing technological advancements within the school, that means that activities of the school can be automated. Some schools when by the principal does not need to leave the office to go and see whether there is a teacher who has submitted a scheme of work. The software is there where you click scheme of work for primary 4, then you see each subject.
Payment of school fees through records.
Yes.
Even there's no need for looking for balances in big books.
The
The record
ledgers.
has the balance, you just put the student's code, then it shows everything.
So there we have looked at automation of systems. Those systems can be academic system. You've seen where you do reports in the school and the parent does not need to come and get her. a printout report. The parent can choose to print the report from there. Yes, that's automatic. The parent sees balances by simply dialing a code, fees balance. So does not need to call now how much am I remaining with. Then first wait, I was still walking to the school. I'm going to inform you. So use of computerized cyber security systems is embraced. Use of these are computerized cyber systems, cyber security systems. You know what happens with cyber security?
CYBER.
Cyber security. If there is no cyber security, my friend yesterday, no, I think 4 days back, works with a UN organization. So they were supposed to receive around 500 million shillings on their account. Someone had been hacking their email, the email of the country director, and seeing their conversations, and they had seen that on that day the transaction was going to be effected from the donors. Went and picked the email of the country director, typed and said, we inform you, our dear donor, that we have changed the account from this to a new account. That email went. So all the staff were not copied, but the donor received the email. Then the donor replied, copying all, that what is the new account? To all now. Now the accountants, the directors were asking, now what is the new account that the donor is talking about? Only to realize the donor sent them an email that you had informed me of the what? Of the new account. The donor was going to send that account, they were going to transact 500 million, and those guys were going to withdraw it. so, so we had an instance in revenue authority. One time when the revenue authority, a guy went to their head office and timed at a time where they do the transactions of clearing off those who are paid on the account, their debts, and hacked into their system and started clearing off some of the clients whom he had got money from, that I'm going to reduce your money from 500 million, just give me 7 million. I reduce it to 2 million. They just timed that time when they had opened the system to clear off those who had paid. And the guy was there. And then the one who was entering in the head office saw some transactions he had not entered. Hey, this guy, the balance wasn't. Only to realize that the balances are reducing, they tracked the networks around the building and got and arrived at that guy transacting inside there. They arrested him. You've seen where the money of MTN and Airtel, billions of shillings have been were withdrawn by using digital means. And these days, I think that's how they have come up with a code that if there is any problem that you have sent money to a wrong person, then initiate and they block so that no one withdraws. Without those cyber security issues, even someone can hack into your account, targets when people are paying, the money goes on their account. With cyber security, they put it, but maybe your banks are working so tirelessly to eliminate those possibilities. So these computerized cyber security systems can handle documentation, can also handle communication, to stakeholders, transactions. These computerized cyber security systems can be used to handle documentations, the communication with stakeholders, transactions, those are counting now, make transactions. Reporting, you automate. There are some institutions where you don't need to ask for a report. You just run in the system and check. Unless you want one that they have written and stamped, that's when you ask. But it's even easier for them because the system shows what they should include in the report. Then, so reporting and assessment, digital marketing, digital lessons. You've heard of digital lessons. In some schools, when the learners miss a lesson, the following day they can find it, that very lesson they missed. Or even when they are at home. The learner is sick at home, in the evening attends that lesson because it is digitally accessible.
UPE schools.
Even in my school, every function, how is it called? Online meetings.
The online.
The parents who are not able, AGM, handover, Thanksgiving, dedication service for candidates. You can just sit at your home and follow and attend.
They live stream.
Every function.
So then also use of machines to these days some schools don't slash with the other slash as we used it to. They will be sweat in the armpits.
In my senior one, we used to go with a slasher, a hoe, a tin of paint.
Yes. So now someone comes with something to mow and then slashes the compound within a few minutes. Those are technological advancements within the school. Some schools you see there's a clock in. My colleague was telling me the head teacher was removed, so I no longer clock in. It's very good. Today I've got a rest.
The ministry also introduced.
The ministry introduced a teller machine in schools or some schools. In all government schools. You what do you do with it? You clock in.
There's me, I can't put my face. If I'm not present, I tell somebody to call. What do you have at your school? I use my code. Others put faces, but for me, the head teacher will let you do so. But for me, I use the code. Even if I'm not around and I want to clock in, I call somebody, they put in the code.
I think this.
But if you put the face, you have to be there physically.
I think it's a gap.
The code. Hours it is the options are there.
I think
Hours it works. It's just a matter of. Hours is also use of code.
I think
That is just a sample they setting.
But they said the time is
okay. Okay, let us conclude with the principal's technological role. So here we see that the principal encourages stakeholders to innovate. You know, technology is not only about machines, but building up new ideas and improving on the existing ones. So the principal encourages stakeholders to innovate, adopt, and adapt to technological needs. You can choose to either innovate yours. The school can create its own apps, its own software. You can come up with your own models within the school, which no one else has. That is innovation. But if you have not innovated, you can adopt already those that are already innovated. And when you adopt them, you need to adapt. That's getting used to how to use them. Yes, that is what. Mhm. So thank you. We're going to have another lecture later to add on the complementary roles of the principal. Thank you.